No one dared to challenge the queens of the night. They ruled the school with whispers sharper than knives and secrets heavier than stone. Behind their laughter lay traps, behind their beauty lay power, and behind their invitations lay something far more dangerous. Kemi should have known better. She should have ignored Mona Lisa's honeyed words, should have turned away from the world that glowed with the promise of luxury and acceptance. But when you have spent your whole life on the outside looking in, the door left slightly open is too tempting to ignore. One night. One choice. One mistake. Now, the music has faded, the drinks have lost their sparkle, and the laughter has turned into something else, something cold, something final. The queens of the night have taken what they wanted. And Kemi. She is about to learn the cost of belonging. Queen Idia College, a prestigious all-girls boarding school in the heart of Lagos, was renowned for its academic excellence, but behind the well-manicured lawns and towering classroom buildings, an unspoken hierarchy dictated social life. At the top of this chain sat three girls who ruled the school with effortless charm and an air of untouchable superiority: Mona Lisa, Sandra, and Jennifer. Known as the Queens of the Night, they walked with an air of royalty, their designer handbags swinging by their sides, their hair always freshly styled at the exclusive salon that no other student dared to enter before them. In contrast, there was Kemi, a scholarship student who had fought her way into the prestigious school through sheer brilliance and determination. Coming from a modest background, she and her best friend, Aini, had mastered the art of survival, making their own hairstyles, budgeting their meager pocket money, and avoiding unnecessary drama. But despite their struggles, Kemi had always harbored a secret admiration for the queens of the night. Their confidence, their beauty, their effortless way of commanding attention, it was intoxicating. So when Mona Lisa approached her one afternoon after classes, Kemi's heart pounded with anticipation. "You study too much, Kemi," Mona Lisa said, her manicured fingers tapping against her designer purse. "Don't you ever want to have fun?" Kemi hesitated, sensing a trap. "I do," she replied cautiously, "but I also have to focus on my studies." Jennifer laughed, a sound as sharp as glass. "That's the problem with girls like you. You think life is all about books. There's a whole world out there, Kemi. And we think it's time you got a taste of it." Sandra leaned in, her voice dripping with false kindness. "Come with us this Saturday. There's a party happening in Ikoyi. Exclusive. VIP. The kind of place where real opportunities happen." Kemi frowned. "Party? You mean sneaking out?" Mona Lisa smirked. "Of course. We do it all the time. The chief security officer is practically on our payroll. Nobody will stop us." Kemi swallowed hard. Every instinct in her body screamed that this was a bad idea. But the thought of stepping into their world, of being seen as one of them, was too tempting to ignore. "Okay," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll come." That night, Aini sat on her bed, arms crossed, watching Kemi as she excitedly tried on different outfits. "This isn't you, Kemi," she said. "You're not like them." Kemi sighed, turning to face her friend. "Maybe that's the problem, Aini. Maybe I want to be more than just the poor scholarship girl who fades into the background." Aini shook her head. "You don't have to prove anything to them. You're better than this." Kemi forced a smile, but deep inside, doubt gnawed at her. Was she making a mistake? Or was this her chance to finally belong? Saturday night arrived quicker than Kemi expected. Dressed in a sleek black dress borrowed from Sandra, she met the girls at the edge of the school fence, her heart pounding as she climbed over. Outside, a sleek black SUV awaited them. As soon as they slid inside, Kemi felt her breath hitch. The leather seats, the scent of expensive cologne, the deep bass of the music playing softly, it was a world she had only seen in movies. "Relax, Kemi," Mona Lisa said, handing her a glass of sparkling wine. "Tonight, you're one of us." As the car sped through the neon-lit streets of Lagos, Kemi's excitement grew. For the first time in her life, she felt powerful, like she belonged to something bigger than herself. But as they neared their destination, a lavish penthouse in Ikoyi, she had no idea that her decision to ditch school for a single night of fun would lead her down a path of no return. The door to the penthouse swung open, revealing a world of opulence beyond Kemi's imagination. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, reflecting the soft glow of neon lights. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and alcohol. Handsome men in tailored suits lounged on plush leather couches, their eyes lingering on the girls as they entered. "Welcome, ladies," a deep voice called from across the room. A tall man with dark eyes and a knowing smirk approached them, his gaze locking onto Kemi. "And who is this new face?" Kemi felt a rush of nerves as Mona Lisa introduced her. "This is Kemi, our new recruit." The man extended his hand. "I'm Jide. You're even more beautiful up close." It crept up Kemi's neck as she took his hand. "Thank you." Sandra nudged her. "Loosen up, Kemi. This is what life is about. Enjoying yourself." As the night progressed, Kemi found herself being swept away by the atmosphere. She danced, laughed, and drank champagne that tasted like liquid gold. For the first time in her life, she felt like she mattered. But as the hours slipped by, she noticed something strange, the way Jide watched her, the way he whispered to the other men while looking in her direction. Then, as the party reached its peak, Jide leaned in and whispered, "Come with me. I have something special for you." Kemi hesitated, but Mona Lisa nudged her forward. "Go, Kemi. He's rich. This could be your chance." A part of her wanted to refuse, but the allure of the night had clouded her judgment. She followed Jide down a dimly lit hallway, her heart hammering in her chest. The moment they reached a private room, she realized her mistake. The door shut behind her with a finality that sent chills down her spine. Jide turned to her, his smile no longer warm but predatory. "You're a smart girl, Kemi. So tell me, do you really think all of this comes for free?" Panic surged through her veins. I should go back to my friends." Jide's smile widened. "Not so fast, beautiful. You're in my world now. And in my world, nothing is free." Kemi's breath itched as reality crashed down on her. She had stepped into a world she didn't understand. And now, she wasn't sure if she could escape it. Outside, the music continued to play, the laughter and dancing uninterrupted. But inside that room, Kemi's life was about to change forever. Kemi's heart pounded as Jide's words echoed in the dimly lit room. The once exhilarating music from the party now sounded distant, muffled by the thick walls that enclosed her. She glanced around, searching for an exit, but Jide's imposing figure blocked the doorway, his expression unreadable yet dripping with intent. The air between them thickened, and suddenly, the warmth of the champagne and the glitter of the party felt like illusions fading into something far more sinister. Outside, the world continued as though nothing was wrong. Mona Lisa, Sandra, and Jennifer laughed and danced, unaware, or perhaps unwilling to acknowledge, the predicament Kemi had found herself in. The men at the party eyed them like prized possessions, their conversations laced with veiled promises and quiet transactions. This was not just a party. It was a market, and Kemi was the newest product on display. Jide stepped closer, his cologne overpowering, his presence suffocating. "Relax, Kemi," he murmured, reaching out to tuck a stray curl behind her ear. "You're special. I could do a lot for a girl like you." Kemi swallowed hard, forcing herself to keep her voice steady. "I just want to go back to my friends." Jide chuckled, shaking his head. "Your friends brought you here. Do you really think they're coming to save you?" Her stomach twisted. She thought about Mona Lisa's words earlier that evening. This could be your chance. But chance for what? To be toyed with by a man who saw her as nothing more than a passing amusement. She had walked into this world blind, dazzled by its lights, but now she could see the shadows lurking behind the glow. Jide moved again, an instinct kicked in. Kemi took a step back, bumping into a glass table. Her fingers curled around the cold edge, gripping it for stability. She needed to think, to escape before things spiraled beyond her control. I need some air, she blurted out, her voice firmer this time. Jide smirked but didn't move. You're nervous. That's cute. But don't worry, Kemi. I take care of my girls. I'm not your girl, she snapped, her fear giving way to anger. His expression darkened. Not yet, he corrected. Before he could make another move, a sudden knock on the door interrupted the tension. A voice, another man's, called out, Jide, we need you outside. Some issue with the guest. Jide hesitated, his jaw tightening, but he sighed and ran a hand through his neatly styled hair. Stay here, he ordered before turning on his heel and exiting, locking the door behind him. The moment she was alone, Kemi sprang into action. Her mind raced as she scanned the room. The windows were heavily tinted, but a narrow bathroom door stood ajar. She rushed inside, desperately looking for another way out. Then she spotted it, a small ventilation window near the ceiling. It was a tight fit, but it was her only chance. Using the bathroom sink as leverage, she hoisted herself up, her hands trembling as she pushed at the window frame. It groaned in protest, but she shoved harder, willing it to open. The distant sounds of the party reminded her that she had mere minutes before Jide returned. Finally, with one last push, the window gave way, and she wriggled through, landing unceremoniously in a narrow alley behind the penthouse. Her lungs burned as she gulped in the night air, her dress snagging against the rough pavement. She barely had time to compose herself before she heard voices, Jide's voice. He had realized she was gone. Heart pounding, she ran. The streets of Ikoyi were eerily quiet compared to the vibrance of the penthouse. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she needed to get far away. Her high heels made running difficult, so she kicked them off, her bare feet slapping against the cool pavement as she turned corner after corner. She needed help. She needed Aini. Meanwhile, back at the school, Aini had spent the entire night pacing their shared dormitory, her worry mounting with each passing hour. She had begged Kemi not to go, had tried to reason with her, but Kemi had been too enchanted by the allure of the queens of the night to listen. Now, as the clock struck past 2 a.m., Aini's heart clenched with unease. Finally, unable to wait any longer, she grabbed her phone and dialed Kemi's number for the 50th time that night. This time, someone picked up. Aini. Kemi's voice was frantic, breathless. Kemi. Where are you? What happened? No time to explain, Kemi panted. I need help. I need to get back to school. I'm in Ikoyi, near she hesitated, looking around. Near a billboard that says, Welcome to Banana Island. Aini's heart slammed against her ribs. Kemi, what did they do to you? I just need to get out of here. Please. Aini took a shaky breath, her mind racing. Okay. Stay hidden. I'll find a way. After ending the call, Aini knew she couldn't do this alone. She needed someone who could move through Lagos without drawing attention. Someone who had connections beyond the school. There was only one person who fit that description. Bayo. Bayo was the school's most notorious rule breaker, a final-year student who somehow always found his way back to school despite disappearing for days at a time. He had connections, street smarts that made him invaluable to anyone looking to bend the rules. Aini had always avoided him, but tonight, she had no choice. She found him near the school's back fence, leaning against a tree, smoking. "Beo," she said, trying to steady her voice. "I need your help." He exhaled slowly, looking at her with mild amusement. Well, if it isn't good girl Annie. What could you possibly need from someone like me?" "It's Kemi," she said quickly. "She's in trouble." That got his attention. "What kind of trouble?" "She went to a nightclub in Ikoyi. She's stranded. I need to get her back before the school finds out she's missing." Beo studied her for a moment, then sighed. "Ikoyi, huh? That's a long ride from here." "Please," Annie begged. "I'll do anything." He smirked. "Careful with promises, good girl." "But fine, let's go." As Kemi crouched behind the parked car, she felt exhaustion creeping in. But just when she thought she was out of options, she saw a familiar face appear in the dim glow of the streetlights. "Annie." Annie rushed to her, pulling her into a tight hug. "Kemi, are you okay?" Tears welled in Kemi's eyes, but she nodded. "I just want to go home." Beo stood nearby, arms crossed. "All right, ladies, as fun as this reunion is, we need to leave before your rich boyfriend sends his goons after us." As they slipped into Beo's waiting car, Kemi took one last glance at the city behind her. The dream of belonging, of stepping into a world of luxury, had shattered. She had made a terrible mistake. But was it too late to fix it? As the car sped away, she vowed never to set foot in that world again. But she had no idea that the nightmare was far from over. As Beo's car sped through the empty Lagos streets, Kemi sat in the back seat, trembling. Her dress was wrinkled, her feet sore from running barefoot, and her mind was in turmoil. The events of the night played over and over in her head: Jide's menacing smirk, the locked door, the desperate escape. She still couldn't believe how close she had come to disaster. She had been foolish, blinded by the glamour of Mona Lisa's world, and now she was paying the price. Annie sat beside her, holding her hand. "Kemi," she whispered, "it's over now. You're safe." But was she? Could she ever feel safe again? Kemi shivered, staring out of the window as the city lights blurred past them. She didn't just fear Jide. She feared what awaited her back at school. She had broken the rules. If they were caught sneaking back in, there would be severe consequences. Beo drove with an air of nonchalance, as if sneaking terrified girls back into their school was just another regular night for him. "So, are you going to tell me what happened back there?" he asked, glancing at Kemi through the rearview mirror. She hesitated before murmuring, "I don't want to talk about it." Beo smirked. "Suit yourself, princess. But trust me, guys like Jide don't forget." Kemi's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Beo shrugged. "Rich men like him. They don't like when their toys run away." His words sent a fresh wave of terror through her, but before she could respond, Annie spoke up. "Let's just focus on getting back into school. We'll deal with everything else later." Beo nodded. "Fine. But I hope you girls know this isn't free." Kemi turned to him sharply. "What?" Beo smirked. "You owe me. I'm risking my neck getting you back in without being caught." Annie sighed. "What do you want, Beo?" He thought for a moment before grinning. "I'll let you know later. Consider it an open favor." Kemi frowned, but she knew they had no choice. "Fine," she muttered. "Just get us back safely." Sneaking back into Queen Idia College was easier than expected. Beo parked near a section of the fence where the security was lax. He handed them a rope ladder he had hidden in the bushes. "Climb fast," he whispered. "And don't make noise." Kemi's hands trembled as she gripped the ladder. Her muscles ached from the night's ordeal, but she pushed herself up. Annie followed closely behind. When they reached the top, Beo gave them a two-finger salute before disappearing into the shadows. Kemi dropped down onto the damp grass, her heart racing as she and Annie crept toward their hostel. The school was silent, except for the occasional hoot of an owl. Just a few more steps and they'd be safe. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Who goes there? Kemi froze. They had been caught. The security guard, an older man with sharp eyes, stepped forward. What are you girls doing out at this time? Annie quickly spoke up. We were just... But before she could come up with a lie, another voice interrupted. Sir, these girls were with us. Kemi turned in shock as Mona Lisa and Sandra emerged from the darkness, their expressions calm, almost bored. Mona Lisa smiled sweetly at the guard. We all just went out for a small event. It wasn't a big deal. Please, don't make a fuss. The guard narrowed his eyes. Does the principal know about this? Sandra sighed, pulling out a crisp naira note and slipping it into the man's hand. Do we really have to disturb Madam Principal? She asked. The guard hesitated before sighing. Fine. But if you get caught again, I won't cover for you. Kemi's stomach churned as she and Annie followed Mona Lisa and Sandra back inside. They had just been saved, but at what cost? The next morning, Kemi barely had time to process what had happened before she was called into the Queens of the Night's room. Mona Lisa sat on her bed, her expression unreadable. You should be thanking us, she said, filing her nails. Kemi shifted uncomfortably. For what? Sandra scoffed. For saving your life. If we hadn't stepped in, you'd be on the first bus back to your village by now. Mona Lisa leaned forward. But we don't do favors for free, Kemi. Kemi's breath caught. What do you mean? Mona Lisa smirked. It's simple. You work for us now. Sandra grinned. You're smart. We could use someone like you. You'll help us with assignments, cover for us when we need to sneak out, and in return, we'll make sure no one finds out what happened last night. Kemi's hands clenched into fists. That's blackmail. Mona Lisa laughed. No, sweetheart. That's power. Welcome to our world. Kemi's heart sank. She had escaped Jide, but she had walked straight into another trap. And this time, there was no easy way out. The weight of Mona Lisa's words clung to Kemi like a suffocating fog. She had escaped one nightmare only to be trapped in another, and the worst part was that she had no way out. The Queens of the Night had her cornered. If she refused them, they would expose her. She would be expelled, humiliated, and sent back home in disgrace. But if she agreed, she would become their pawn, forced to bend to their every whim. Her stomach twisted with unease as she sat in class the next morning, barely listening to the teacher's lecture. Annie shot her a concerned glance, but Kemi couldn't bring herself to meet her friend's eyes. How could she tell her what had happened? How could she admit that she was now under Mona Lisa's thumb? It didn't take long for the queens to make their first demand. That evening, Kemi found herself in their dorm room, forced to complete Sandra's overdue history essay while Jennifer lounged on the bed, scrolling through her phone. You're lucky, Sandra said, blowing on her freshly painted nails. Normally, I'd have to pay someone for this. But you get to do it for free. Kemi gritted her teeth, her hands trembling as she wrote. This was just the beginning, she knew it. They would push her further, test her limits, and she had no choice but to comply. The thought made her sick. Over the next few days, Mona Lisa and her friends exploited Kemi's intelligence relentlessly. She wrote their essays, completed their assignments, and even covered for them when they snuck out again. Each time she hesitated, Mona Lisa would remind her of the thin line she walked. One word from us, and you're gone, she would whisper, her voice dripping with mock concern. Kemi felt like she was drowning, each day pulling her deeper into a sea of regret. Annie noticed the change immediately. "Kemi, talk to me," she pleaded one afternoon. "Why are you suddenly spending all your time with them? What have they done to you?" Kemi hesitated. She wanted to tell Annie everything, but fear held her back. If she involved her best friend, Mona Lisa might come after her, too. So she forced a smile and lied. "I'm fine, Annie. Just trying to stay out of trouble." Annie didn't believe her, but she didn't push. She simply watched, waiting for the moment when Kemi would finally break. And that moment came sooner than either of them expected. One evening, Mona Lisa called Kemi into their dorm with a new demand. "You're coming with us to another party," she announced. Kemi's breath hitched. "No. I can't." Mona Lisa's expression darkened. "Excuse me." "I said no," Kemi repeated, her voice stronger this time. "I already made that mistake once. I won't do it again." Jennifer scoffed. "Oh, so you think you have a choice?" Mona Lisa smiled coldly. "You seem to forget who holds your future in their hands." Kemi's fist clenched. She had played their game for too long, allowed them to control her out of fear. But she couldn't keep living like this. She needed to find a way out. That night, unable to sleep, she made a decision. She was going to fight back. But she needed help. Slipping out of the dorm, she found herself standing outside Beo's room in the boys' dormitory. She knocked hesitantly. A few seconds later, the door creaked open, revealing Beo, shirtless and half asleep. "Kemi," he murmured, rubbing his eyes. "What are you doing here?" "I need your help," she whispered. Beo smirked. "I knew you'd come back to cash in that favor." She nodded. "But this isn't just for me. It's for every girl Mona Lisa has trapped." Beo studied her for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Come in," he said. "Let's talk." As Kemi entered the dimly lit room, she knew one thing for certain: she was done being a victim. It was time to take the queens of the night down. Kemi sat across from Beo in his dimly lit dorm room, her hands clenched into fists as she explained everything: how Mona Lisa and her friends had blackmailed her, how they had been sneaking out to dangerous parties, and how she had been forced to cover for them. Beo listened in silence, his sharp eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he leaned back against the wall, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "You know," he finally said, "taking down girls like them isn't easy. They've got connections. Money. People who cover for them." "I don't care," Kemi said firmly. "I just want my life back." Beo smirked. "I like this version of you, Kemi." She exhaled sharply. "Can you help me or not?" He chuckled. "Oh, I can help. But you need to be ready for war." The next morning, Kemi went about her day as if nothing had changed. She played her role perfectly, still acting like the queen's obedient puppet. But behind the scenes, she and Beo were setting their plan into motion. Beo had contacts, people who knew things about the queens that even they didn't realize were being washed. He dug into their history, found evidence of their wrongdoings, and pieced together a strategy. But the real weapon would be exposing them in a way they couldn't escape from. A week later, Kemi was called to Mona Lisa's dorm for yet another errand. This time, it was Jennifer who handed her a sealed envelope. "You're going to take this to a guy named Chucks. He'll be waiting behind the cafeteria after lights out." Kemi frowned. "Who's Chucks?" Sandra rolled her eyes. "Don't ask questions. Just do it." Kemi nodded, but inside, her pulse quickened. Beo had warned her that the queens were involved in things far worse than sneaking out for parties. She had suspected it, but now she had proof. That night, instead of delivering the envelope, she took it straight to Beo. He opened it and whistled. "Wow. These girls are dumber than I thought. Inside was a list of payments, transactions for things that had nothing to do with school. Money laundering. Bribes. And worse. This is it, Kemi whispered. This is how we bring them down. Beo nodded. Now, we just need to make sure the right people see this. The next morning, the entire school was in chaos. Somehow, copies of the documents had made their way onto every student's desk. Mona Lisa, Sandra, and Jennifer walked into the dining hall only to find everyone staring at them. Murmurs filled the air as students whispered about the transactions, the bribes, the lies. Principal Mrs. Okafor stormed in moments later, flanked by 2 school security officers. Mona Lisa Williams. Sandra Adeyemi. Jennifer Okonkwo. My office. Now. The room fell silent as the 3 girls, usually so confident, now looked shaken. They turned to Kemi, who stood near the back, her arms crossed. Mona Lisa's eyes narrowed. You, she hissed. Kemi smirked. Guess you're not as untouchable as you thought. Sandra tried to defend herself. This is a setup. We didn't do anything. Enough. Mrs. Okafor snapped. We'll discuss this in my office. The 3 girls were escorted out, and the moment the doors closed behind them, the dining hall erupted into cheers. Kemi felt Aine's arm wrap around her. You did it, Aine whispered. Kemi let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. No, she said. We did it. The queens of the night were expelled. The scandal rocked the school, and for weeks, their names were whispered in the hallways. But Kemi. She was finally free. She had made a mistake, but she had fought her way back. And as she sat with Aine that evening, watching the sun set over the school grounds, she knew one thing for certain. She would never let anyone control her again. Thank you for watching. Did the story remind you of anyone? Please hit the subscribe button, share this story with someone, like the video and tell me about your thoughts in the comment section.